Hello everyone, and welcome to Youth Ministry 2.2. Today we're going to talk about the task of adolescents, becoming adults. My name is John Gehrig. This video is one of a series on teen development. If you missed the first videos about the physical and cognitive changes that occur during adolescence, be sure to watch them. The notes for this video, as well as links to other videos in the series, can be found on the Youth Ministry 2.2 website. A link to these materials is in the description below. At what age do kids become adults? Which years do we identify as the time in between childhood and adulthood? This is a complex question because the boundaries of adolescence are defined differently in different parts of the world. In fact, there is a view that adolescence is simply a social construct. In some remote cultures, the transition period can last as little as 1 week. At the appointed age, children are taken out into the wild for various rites of passage. They return a week later as adults. In more developed countries, the process of learning and preparing for adulthood takes several years. Until the 19th century, older kids often began working alongside adults to learn a trade or to begin making money. The transition period to adulthood was very short. Only a small percentage of teenagers were in school, leaving the rest to work to support their families. Only the children of well-to-do families were busy receiving an education. By the 20th century, most teens were studying at school with their peer group. In many countries, school was mandatory for teens, and child labor laws were passed prohibiting teens from working adult jobs. They were to be in school. Besides mandatory education, other factors now in the 21st century continue to stretch adolescence into a longer period than ever before. Mass media exposes kids to the adult world and causes childhood to end earlier, while young adults get married later and spend more time on higher education or settling on a career. In the mid-19th century, the path to adulthood took most young people 1 or 2 years. In the 20th century, it took from 5 to 7 years, and now it can take up to 14 or 15 years or more. Let's take a moment and consider what are some signposts in our culture that a person has become an adult. Examples might include graduation from high school or getting a tattoo. If you're watching this video in a group, put the video on pause and make a list together of the signs of adulthood in your context. Here are some answers you may have given. University studies, military service, marriage, first job, driver's license, drinking legally, sexual experience. Now evaluate each of the signs you or I named. How much do they really help a person become a mature adult? Put the video on pause and rate each of these signs of adulthood. A plus if they contribute to maturity, a minus if they hinder maturity, or a 0 if they are neutral. What are some typical characteristics of a modern transition to adulthood? Today, the transition to adolescence usually takes place among peers. Adolescents are not alone in this process and can compare their transition to others. Teenagers naturally start spending more time outside the family with friends, a first step in the process of separation from their parents. In our family, we always celebrated New Year's as a family, with lots of food and fireworks. I remember the first time our kids asked if they could spend New Year's Eve with friends. It was hard for us as parents to give up this family tradition. We ended up moving our family party to earlier in the day so that our teenagers could join their friends. Another sign is body marking. In some primitive tribes, when a child becomes an adult, Cuts are made on his body to indicate his new status. This is not what we do, but we do have some parallels, such as piercings, shaving, tattoos, wearing makeup, dreadlocks, etc. As adolescents go through this period, wise adults start granting them some adult privileges. For example, teens' opinions are valued. They're given the opportunity to speak up more about family matters, and they are trusted with more freedom away from home. But with greater privilege should come greater responsibility. Teenage kids can manage more household chores. They can take care of the younger ones in the family and be expected to provide a good example. My wife often sent one of our teenagers to the playground with his younger brother, with a condition. When they came back, the youngest would be asked whether everything had gone well, whether the older one had taken good care of him. The older one could not slack off by just sitting on a bench and doing his own thing. I knew one family where every year each child was given a new responsibility in addition to his previous ones. At that time, their teenage son was already washing his own clothes. Another very important point to consider is that the transition to adulthood can happen gradually or suddenly. In a gradual transition, the adolescent assumes the status of an adult with sufficient preparation. The teen gradually gains more and more freedom and responsibility as he is ready. In a sudden transition, the youngster finds herself having to live as an adult without preparation. She is forced to take care of herself, but is not ready to do so. What are some circumstances that lead to a forced transition to adulthood? A social crisis, such as war or an economic collapse, may cause parents to be unexpectedly absent or extremely busy. In such situations, adolescents may have to take on adult roles, whether they are ready or not. Family crisis or dysfunction can also throw adolescents abruptly into adulthood. If a single parent works extremely long hours, or there is alcoholism or a serious illness, the child may have to do many things on his or her own without parental involvement and guidance. Some researchers believe that a sudden transition to adulthood is harmful to adolescents. One consequence they may suffer is a lack of self-awareness. They haven't had time to really understand themselves. They are immediately at risk for failure in school, drug and alcohol abuse. They may be aggressive towards others or subject to bullying. They are not ready to be on their own. Finally, lacking good adult role models and sufficient preparation for adulthood, they will be more vulnerable later to adult problems like divorce, domestic violence, unemployment, etc. When I was teaching overseas, a college student told me she had invited teenagers from an orphanage to her apartment, and one girl put 7 teaspoons of sugar in her tea. This was because in the orphanage they were given tea with sugar already in it. She simply did not know how much sugar to put in it. You probably don't have orphans in your group, but be on the lookout for kids who haven't had preparation for normal adult life. As youth leaders, there are things we can do to help all of our young people transition into adulthood. We can mentor them, answer their questions, and share about our experiences with education, work, relationships, and health. We can be good adult role models for them. We can include them in our lives and in our family, especially if their family situations have been dysfunctional. We can also entrust them with important tasks in our group, camp, or church. For example, you can invite teens to work in the camp kitchen, where they will simultaneously learn some cooking skills. Many kids learn these things at home, but pay special attention to kids who could really benefit from these kinds of experiences. And so, all adolescents are in the process of moving from childhood to adulthood. Some of them make the transition gradually and fully prepared, while others are pushed through it suddenly and without preparation. Our job is to come alongside each one, wherever they are, and to give a helping hand. If this video was helpful to you, please give it a thumbs up. In our next video, we look at the spiritual development of teens. What are some of the challenges they face, and how can we help them? Don't forget to check out our website, Youth Ministry 22, for materials, Bible lessons, and topical discussions for your student ministry. Thank you for your investment in the lives of others. God bless you. See you next time.